We begin the world brief with the far-right National Rally Party sweeping gains in elections for seats in the French Parliament, the closest they've been to seizing power in modern times. According to exit polls released in the last hour, the far-right party got 34%, the NFP left-wing coalition 28.1%, and President Macron's Ensemble coalition just 20.3%. Turnout was the highest in 30 years, with a surge in support for both the far-right and left-wing parties. There's another round of voting next Sunday. President Macron sparked an election after he dissolved parliament when his party was heavily defeated by the far-right movement in a European poll earlier this month. Celebrating her party's early success, Marine Le Pen says democracy has spoken as she declares President Emmanuel Macron's camp practically wiped out.
La démocratie a parlé et les Français ont placé le Rassemblement national et ses alliés en tête.
My dear compatriots, democracy has spoken and the French people have placed the National Rally and its allies in the lead and virtually wiped out the Macronist bloc. First of all, as a political leader, I welcome such a high turnout, which gives particular force to tonight's results. In an unambiguous vote, the French people have demonstrated their desire to turn the page after 7 years of contemptuous and corrosive power. We warmly thank the voters and welcome this result. This first step towards choosing an alternative is a mark of confidence which honors and obliges us. For all that, nothing is won and the second round will be decisive to avoid the country falling into the hands of the PS, Socialist Party, to coalition and in reality, of an extreme left with violent, anti-Semitic and anti-Republican tendencies, whose main activist elements of the far left, LFI, La France Insoumise, the NPA, Nouveau Parti anti-capitalist, violent or communitarian entities will prop up Jean-Luc Mélenchon as Prime Minister.
Some French voters have reacted to projections indicating that the far-right National Rally took a strong but not decisive lead in the first-round votes in France's high-stakes legislative elections. French polling agencies indicated that President Emmanuel Macron's grouping of centrist parties could finish a distant third in the first-round ballot. Their projections put Macron's camp behind both Marine Le Pen's National Rally and a new left-wing coalition of parties that joined forces to keep her anti-immigration party with historical links to anti-Semitism from being able to form the first far-right government in France since World War II.
As predicted, we are going towards the extreme. People don't understand that this will impact us for years and years. This is a France of hate that is growing, not a France of solidarity and union. It touches me deeply. It's the racism growing, the homophobia, all of this. It is deplorable, truly deplorable.
Oui, très préoccupé. Surtout qu'en plus j'ai plein d'amis qui sont binationaux et
Yes, I am very much worried. I have many friends that are binational. When we listen to the extremist racist measures, that reminds us the France of Vichy. When they speak against binationals, they are talking about an anti-France. They take us back to the war days. I barely have words.
Oui, alors écoutez, comme au premier.
Listen, like it happened during the previous election, the voices of the left joined the right. We expect that this time around the voices of the right can join the left.
Je sais pas, il y a eu peut-être un premier rappel de Macron, mais on sait pas trop, j'ai pas vraiment de source.
I don't know. Maybe an early appeal from Macron. I don't know, I don't have sources, but maybe he can appeal for a vote against the far right. I hope for a union between the right and the left.
Joining us now from Paris in France is Arise special correspondent John Cookson. Good morning, John, or shall I say bonjour, John? Welcome to the show.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Right.
So tell us, updates. Yeah. What's happening? Go on, please.
Can I just say I'm hearing myself back about 5 seconds later if the gallery can adjust that. Well, yes, good morning from Paris. Very much the morning after the night before with that presumed landslide push by the National Rally Party to win most of the votes in the first round. Let's just run through those figures one more time. The RN party got 34%, the NFP left-wing are 28%, and Macron's Ensemble party on 20%. How does that translate into seats in the parliament? Well, there are 577 seats in the French parliament, and a majority, which all parties are trying to get, is 289. So where are we this morning? RN are on around 230 to 280 seats. The NFP between 125 and 165, and Macron's Ensemble coalition between 70 and 100 seats. So there's a long way to go in terms of political promises and backroom deals that have to and will take place before next Sunday. But on the face of it, the RN party is very much in pole position to win possibly a majority in Parliament. They may fall short, but all the indications are at the moment, if they form a stronger coalition with the Republican Party, that they will win that majority that they're looking for. So a political earthquake underway right now in France. We'll have to see how it all plays out. There's a very complicated election system here, whereby if a candidate gets 50% of the votes, and some have already, they're straight through. They are a new deputy in the new parliament. But if any person bidding to be elected gets between 12.5% and 25%, they go through to the second round. And this is where the backroom deals will be done in the coming days, because all efforts will be made by Macron's party and also the hard left to try and thwart Rally National.
Yes, John, you are absolutely correct. It's after July 7 that we'll get a clearer picture when we have that second round. And what is certain now is that the National Rally will have more than the 89 seats in that parliament that they currently have. We can imagine that. But what's the worst case scenario for President Macron? He remains president till 2027, but what's likely to happen? A hung parliament, or Boulard becoming a prime minister and creating so much political and economic uncertainty for France?
A hung parliament would be the worst case scenario for Macron, and could end in his toppling from power. The French president has very strong and striking executive powers, and he exercises them from time to time, and we've seen it recently in the dissolution of the General Assembly. So he can get by, if you like, but for major policies on domestically and also foreign policies, he needs the backing in Parliament, and if it's a hung Parliament, then he's going to get no legislature through, and it will cause extreme uncertainty, not only politically in France, but also economically for this country, the seventh biggest economy in the world. And there's another matter to look out for now. Last night, there were demonstrations and a little bit of violence in the Place de la République by leading members of the left-wing alliance, and there's a big danger that violence might spread across France, especially next Sunday when the full results are known. France is a revolutionary regime, going back to the revolution, of course, more than 250 years ago now. And politics plays out on the streets in this country. I've seen it so many times here in France, lots of strikes in the past and civil unrest. And there's a big worry today as to where the country is going. We're less than 4 weeks away from the Olympics. Already the country's on a very high state of security alert, and the last thing the security forces need is political unrest. But there's no love lost at all between the hard right and the hard left. And the hard left will make their feelings known in a very possibly violent way in the coming days.
Okay. So let's go back historically now. After the Second World War, on the right, as right-wing president, we've had Pompidou, Mitterrand, and Sarkozy, three of those men, but they've just been on the right, the moderate right. Yeah. We've never had an occasion of a hard right, which is a new dynamic in French politics as we speak. But having an hard right, and why they're pretty much called hard right, apart from other right-wing ideology, is immigration. How do you juxtapose a hard right government in a France that preaches liberté, égalité, et fraternité? That's the motto of France. How do you juxtapose anti-Islam, immigration, acerbic rhetoric, they are not from France, rhetoric from the likes of Éric Zemmour, for a France that believes in liberté, égalité, et fraternité? How do you juxtapose that?
You're absolutely right, and you make a very, very, very good point, but you refer to history. History changes from time to time, and it seems that, as I said earlier, that there has been a political earthquake in this country. The rationale and the political points that the National Rally Party are making appeals to many French people, especially, interestingly, the young here in France. Last night, 10 million people of the 49 million people eligible to vote voted for the far right. And this is a new reality and has come about as a result of mass immigration over the years, and also a downturn in the economy. So to put it in its historical context, I think a page has been turned here in France. Look, there's still a week to go. We might end up with a hung parliament, and support for the hard left and the hard right might dissipate over the coming days and afterwards. And what about Macron's position as well? Are his days numbered? He came to power in 2017 with a centrist message which appealed to people at the time, but 7 years on, public opinion has changed, and that's clear from the vote yesterday.
All right, I understand you saying that we still have till the 7th of July for things to be clear, but the truth is a number of people, as you would notice, that it looks like RN is the politically dominant party in France at the moment. I'd like to put this as to what is also going on around the world in other places like America, where immigration has also become a big talking point in the elections and perhaps could be a key deciding factor. Is this an indication that there is a challenge around, number one, either migration across the world in terms of receiving nations becoming more intolerant as a result of the economic impact, or just that people have just become more intolerant in recent times? Because it's the same conversations being had in the United States of America ahead of the elections in November, and now France. For France, it's a big talking point as well. What is the future of tolerance across nations, migration policies across nations in the next few years?
That's a big question, isn't it? And you're absolutely right. Immigration is a key issue in the American elections, also in Britain too, where we have Nigel Farage's Reform Party tapping into this dissatisfaction with the way things are in the UK, and it's being replicated here in France. I mean, you simply cannot have millions of people moving from one part of the world into another and taking up housing and benefits and other changing communities in old established countries. And we're seeing a slow reaction, well, perhaps not a slow reaction, a moderate reaction to all of that. It's happened in Italy, and as I say, it's happening at the moment in the UK and in America, and for sure in the coming months immigration will be an issue that former President Trump will raise in his campaign, buoyed up no doubt by seeing what's happening here in France, where people seem to have turned. There has been a shift in public opinion that enough is enough, that governments need to secure borders, they need to look after their own citizens first, but at the same time causing huge fear for the immigrant population. For example, here in France, the number of Muslims are around 6 million. They're fearful of the future, and rightly so, because the National Rally Party is a radical institution, and if it gets a mandate to push through its plans, then for sure things are going to become very difficult for immigrants here in France. And the same will possibly replicated in America, although that's a much bigger country. But certainly in the UK too, there's a general feeling amongst the British citizens, British-born citizens, that enough is enough, and governments have to take action.
Well, John, for now, it looks like President Macron's decision to call a snap election has backfired in a spectacular manner. But the rise of nationalism in Europe, how much threat does the rise of nationalism in Europe pose to the rest of the world? Because this is not just about Europe, it's about all of us.
Yeah, I mean, there is a rise of nationalism, and it's a reaction to mass immigration. There can be no doubt about that, and maybe we'll see other changes in Europe as well. I mean, for example, the Netherlands, the issue is very prominent at the moment. So we're just at the beginning, I think, of a process here, and it's being played out in real time in France at the moment, and that question that you raised earlier about tolerance is very pertinent here. Surely, as human beings, we should be tolerant, but there's a limit, and it seems that in certain countries, including France, that limit has been reached.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Merci, and see you tomorrow morning for more updates, especially with regards to election matters in France, England, and of course, the United States of America.